This is a great opportunity to unify the party. That is how House Speaker Paul Ryan is classifying the meeting he had with Donald Trump earlier today.
Look, it's no secret that Donald Trump and I have had our differences. We talked about those differences today. That's common knowledge. The question is, what is that we need to do to unify the Republican Party and all strains of conservative wings in the party? We had a very good and encouraging, productive conversation on just how to do that. It was important that we discussed our differences that we have, but it was also important that we discussed the core principles that tie us all together.
And joining us now is CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris and CBSN contributor Leslie Sanchez. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
I got to say, I don't think this is a surprise, but what do you make of the fact that Speaker Ryan stopped short of actually endorsing Donald Trump?
I think he's being very strategic about it. And, you know, it adds much more credibility. So when he does hopefully fundamentally endorse, that you have many more Republicans who are going to believe that. It's funny. I had some Republican leadership say he would be cheapening his endorsement if he did it too soon. They want to see that he's negotiating back and forth on those core principles.
Steve, so Paul Ryan said that Trump had a good personality, but is the issue here less personality and more policy?
Yeah, but that's not the point of the meeting today, was to talk about the policy. The point was he needed to get to know this guy. Ryan admitted, he'd only met him once in person, and that was 4 years ago for about 30 seconds at a fundraiser for the Romney-Ryan campaign. And, you know, this is an opportunity to basically get to know you, to talk about, as he said, the core conservative principles they want to talk about moving forward. But it wasn't about drilling down into policy. We all know that there's a huge chasm, I think, on a lot of issues between Ryan and Trump, and those conversations will happen over the coming weeks. We have 67 days before the convention starts, and so I think that's time I think that Ryan wants to use to make sure that A, Trump is on board with some of the ideas that he wants to move forward with, but B, that Trump is going to use to make sure that he can get some of these establishment Republicans who really fought pretty hard against him during the primaries. I mean, don't forget, there was a chunk of Republicans who put a super PAC together to say never Trump. And, you know, I'm not saying Ryan was one of those people, but there are a lot of people in the Republican Party that aren't sold on Trump. And so he's got a couple of months here to work on that. And Ryan, you know, is going to take, I think, as much time as he needs to feel comfortable with Trump.
But Trump's whole MO has been, I'm not joining the Republican establishment. I'm not going to get behind them. So what does that do for Trump if suddenly Ryan is on board? You
raise a really important point, and that is that he has such a base of voters who are excited about he's breaking up Washington. He's going to do things differently, and he's a true outsider. Most of the time when people say outsiders, they mean a governor, somebody who has some sort of reform experience on a state level, like incubator of ideas, and takes it to Washington. Not at all now. Now you get a business person who's never really been there other than on his private jet. So it changes the conversation a lot. They want to see him stand strong to that. But also, I think fundamentally, you've got the 2/3 of the party who does want to move back under the fold and still continue to believe this is a big tent party. And we hear a lot of the Democrats using that language now, but that's old language going back over a generation that really is fundamentally important to why so many people embrace Republican principles.
Steve, interesting numbers today I was checking out from publicpolicypolling.com, and they did a national poll on Paul Ryan and found out that only 30% of voters approve of the job that Ryan is doing as Speaker of the House. And he's doing a lot better than Mitch McConnell, though, who has an 11% approval rating. So I guess the question is, where does Ryan and the rest of the Republican leadership go from here as they look to forge this unification, as they look to build on what happened this morning?
Well, I mean, the challenge for anybody in Congress, whether it's Democrat leaders or Republican leaders, is relevancy, right? The American public is not happy with Congress's performance. They haven't been for years. I mean, overall approval for Congress among Americans has been in the teens for a long time. So anything these guys say, I think their challenge is being relevant to Americans. And I think Trump's challenge, though, however, is finding that sweet spot, right, between the people who got him to where he is as the nominee, these people who are voting for an outsider candidate who have an anti-establishment mindset, and the establishment Republicans like Ryan, like McConnell, who are really the infrastructure of the Republican Party, which Trump needs. Trump needs these people to help raise money. He needs these people to help build an organization so he can try to get elected president. And so he's got to find that sweet spot. It's going to be really interesting. It's an interesting challenge for Trump over the next few weeks what he has to give up in order to attract people like Ryan and other Republicans who aren't on board. But at the same time, in terms of policy, in terms of some of this other stuff, it's going to be a harder slog for Ryan, mainly because right now Americans don't hold Congress in high regard. And so Ryan, I think, holding out on his endorsement is also holding on to some legitimacy here, or some leverage, really, to say, okay, look, you got to listen to me because I haven't endorsed you yet.
You know, I want to say, do you want to jump in? Leslie,
Yeah,
please?
no, there's a very important part that goes to this. If you think about Congress overall and elected officials down ballot, what is this saying in terms of what the political makeup and the firestorm that we're breeding now is going to look like in terms of turnout in November? So if you think of 2008, in 2010, there was a referendum against President Obama's policies and his overreaching and the executive orders, and you had a lot of people coming out. It's very rare that the president would be a referendum issue on a midterm election, but it had massive consequences down ballot. It's the same kind of thing here. I think you almost see a perfect storm of elected officials saying, what is this kind of rise of these Trump voters and the impact it's going to have all the way down ballot if it's a message against Washington, right? So we don't really know.
Speaking of Washington, the other big takeaway I was surprised to hear, did the two of you know Burrito Brothers serves breakfast in the morning? That's what Paul Ryan was this morning. Cameras are outside of Burrito Brothers.
Burrito Brothers. Well,
I haven't been to a Burrito Brothers in years.
We're all Latino now.
well, so
Steve.
listen, you guys. This is something
I'm heading there tomorrow, though. Free advertising, right?
So here's something interesting, though. This just popped into my inbox, and I was telling Rena this when we were in the commercial break. So we had Bob Cusack from The Hill. The Hill has a report out that immigration groups sent a bunch of taco bowls to GOP lawmakers. They were unrequested, as you can imagine. This was to highlight the visit of Donald Trump to Capitol Hill. So America's Voice, Latino Victory Project, United We Dream, United Farm Workers, they sent bowls to Senator Richard Burr, Rob Portman, Pat Toomey, McCain got one, Chuck Grassley got one on the House side, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy. Here's the question, Leslie, as a Latina Republican. We talk about
Those two words go together.
Well, they do. They absolutely do. These are liberal groups that are sending these burrito bowls because of Donald Trump's picture of him, which they called his pandering. I don't know if you've heard that term, his pandering. We talk about the unification of the party that needs to happen between Donald Trump and the establishment, but there's another thing. Donald Trump has brought in millions of voters into the Republican Party, but is he bringing in Latinos? Is he bringing in African Americans? And what about the women that he's disparaged? That's an interesting question that we haven't talked about a whole lot.
No, and that takes so much of this calculus it puts a lot into the equation. A lot of people don't know the answer to that. I know that I've spoken to a lot of even conservative Democrats who like Donald Trump. They like his strong border enforcement. They live on La Frontera, the border area, and they really feel it. They want their families to be safe. They believe in the rule of law. They like it. They really don't have a problem with his tone, quite honestly, because they want somebody firm and to stand strong and defend America's sovereignty. So it goes both ways. But I think what's funny and fascinating, one, we all like a hearty breakfast.
Yeah.
That's so Latino. My mother would agree, definitely. But there's also a hashtag taco challenge, which is supported by Me Too, which is a massive social media online network that has a lot of Latino advocacy groups, Voto Latino, and all those come together. So take action, commit others, taco. So there you go. Thank goodness there's an emoji now for tacos.
The show is lunch hour. We're going to have to bring in lunch at some point here.
Steve, I'll come with you to that burrito bowl, but I don't think there are any in New York City.
Oh, is there not?
I don't think so, right?
Okay.
I don't know. You guys know I don't eat a whole lot during the day, so I wouldn't know. All right, Steve Chaggaris in Washington, Leslie Sanchez here in New York. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.